Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajakacharya Astotra Sutta Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajakacharya Astotra Sutta Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We shall read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5. Prahlad, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. Text 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Sa Yada Anuvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhi Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyo Ham Iti Beda Gatasati Sad Yadanuvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhir Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyoham Iti Beda Gatasati Sayadanurvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhir Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyoham Iti Beda Gatasati Sayadanurvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhir Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyoham Iti Beda Gatasati
Sayadanurvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhi Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyoham Iti Beda Gatasati
Sayadanurvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhir Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyoham Iti Beda Gatasati.
Ladies.
Sayadanurvrata Pumsam Pashubuddhir Vibidyate Anya Esha Tatanyoham Iti Beda Gatasati.
Sa, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yada, when, Anuvrata, favorable or pleased, Pumsam, of the conditioned soul, Pashubuddhi, the animalistic conception of life. I am the Supreme, and everyone is God. Vibidyate is destroyed. Anya, another. Esha, this. Tata, as well as. Anya, another. Aham, I. Iti, thus. Veda, distinction. Gata, having. Asati, which is disastrous. Translation. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a pundit and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he thinks, every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. Please repeat. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased,
When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased
with the living entity,
with the living entity,
because of his devotional service,
because of his devotional service,
one becomes a pundit
one becomes a pundit
and does not make distinctions
and does not make distinctions
between enemies,
between enemies,
friends,
friends,
and himself.
and himself.
Intelligently,
Intelligently,
he then thinks
he then thinks
every one of us
every one of us
is an eternal servant of God,
is an eternal servant of God,
and therefore we are not different
and therefore we are not different
from one another.
from one another.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When Prahlad Maharaj's teachers and demoniac father asked him how his intelligence had been polluted, Prahlad Maharaj said, "As far as I am concerned, my intelligence has not been polluted. Rather, by the grace of my spiritual master and by the grace of my Lord, Krishna, I have now learned that no one is my enemy and no one is my friend. We are all actually eternal servants of Krishna, but under the influence of the external energy, we think that we are separately situated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead as friends and enemies of one another. This mistaken idea has now been corrected, and therefore, unlike ordinary human beings, I no longer think that I am God and that others are my friends and enemies. Now I am rightly thinking that everyone is an eternal servant of God and that our duty is to serve the Supreme Master. For then we shall stand on the platform of oneness and servants." Demons think of everyone as a friend or enemy. But Vaishnavas say that since everyone is a servant of the Lord, everyone is on the same platform. Therefore, a Vaishnava treats other living entities neither as friends nor as enemies, but instead tries to spread Krishna consciousness, teaching everyone that we are one as servants of the Supreme Lord, but are uselessly wasting our valuable lives by creating nations, communities, and other groups of friends and enemies. Everyone should come to the platform of Krishna consciousness and thus feel oneness as a servant of the Lord. Although there are 8,400,000 species of life, a Vaishnava feels this oneness. The Ishopanishad advises, ekatvam anupashyataha. A devotee should see the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be situated in everyone's heart and should also see every living entity as an eternal servant of the Lord. This vision is called ekatvam, oneness. Although there is a relationship of master and servant, both master and servant are one because of their spiritual identity. This is also ekatvam. Thus, the conception of ekatvam for the Vaishnava is different from that of the Mayavadi. There's more to the purport, but I'll just mention here that Lord Chaitanya taught the sublime philosophy of Achintya Veda Tattva, which means inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and different. So we are one with the Lord in quality because we are both spiritual, but we are different in quantity because the Lord is infinite and we are infinitesimal, as Srila Prabhupada said, or infinitesimal. So because we are one in quality, we can have a relationship. If there's no common principle, we cannot have a relationship with anyone or anything. So because of the oneness of being spiritual, we can have a relationship. But because of the difference in quantity, the relationship is one of master and servant, because God is infinite and we are infinitesimal. But every living entity has that same relationship with the Lord, and therefore we should not make distinctions of friends and enemies like ordinary people do. Because as eternal servants of Krishna, we are all one. And naturally, Krishna will be pleased if we appreciate each other as his servants. Just like a father is happy when the children's relationships with each other is harmonious. The father or mother won't be happy if the children are fighting. And so that is the case with Krishna, the Supreme Father, and that is certainly the case of Srila Prabhupada in relation to the devotees in ISKCON. Hiranyakasipu asked Prahlad Maharaj how he had become antagonistic to his family. When a family member is killed by an enemy, all the members of the family would naturally be inimical to the murderer. But Hiranyakashipu saw that Prahlad had become friendly with the murderer. So the murderer was Lord Vishnu in the form of Varahadev, and he killed Hiranyakashipu's brother, Hiranyaksha. So Hiranyakashipu was an avowed enemy of Vishnu, and Prahlad, as a family member, was expected also to be aligned with his father as friends and be an enemy of Vishnu. So, when a family member is killed by an enemy, all the members of the family would naturally be inimical to the murderer. But Hiranyakashipu saw that Prahlad had become friendly with the murderer. Therefore, he asked, "Who has created this kind of intelligence in you? Have you developed this consciousness by yourself? Since you are a small boy, someone must have induced you to think in this way." Well, the history is that after Hiranyakasipu had performed austerities to get tremendous power, if one performs austerities, one will get power. And that power can be used either in harmony with the Lord's desires or against the Lord. So Hiranyakasipu got great powers because of his extreme austerities, and he was benedicted by Lord Brahma in so many ways, but he used his powers as a demon against the Lord and the devotees. So during a fight between the demons and the demigods, at one stage the demigods got the upper hand, and they took possession of Hiranyakasipu's pregnant wife. And they wanted to kill her because they thought that the child within her womb would be another demon like his father, Hiranyakashipu. But Narada Muni came there, and he said, no, the child that she is carrying within her womb is actually a great devotee, so you should not harm her. And the demigods, headed by Indra, respected the words of Narada, and so they accepted his instruction. They circumambulated the pregnant mother, and Narada took possession of her and brought her to his ashram, although that was a little unusual, but he did it, of course, for a good reason. And while in the womb at Narada Muni's ashram, Narada instructed the boy's mother about devotional service, Krishna consciousness, and Prahlad in the womb heard it. He heard all the instructions. And so he became educated in Krishna consciousness. So pregnant mothers can keep that in mind and read Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, they or their husbands or sons or daughters or friends can read Srimad Bhagavatam so that the child in the womb can hear those good instructions. So, Hiranyakashipu asked, "Who has created this kind of intelligence in you? Have you developed this consciousness by yourself? Since you are a small boy, someone must have induced you to think in this way. So, when Hiranyakashipu, so one day, Hiranyakashipu asked his son Prahlad, what's the best thing you learned in school? We might also ask children, what did you learn in school today? What's your favorite subject? So, Prahlad replied, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. In other words, devotional service to Vishnu, who Hiranyakasipu considered to be his enemy. So Hiranyakasipu called for the boy's teachers and asked them, this is what Prahlad said. He's favorable to Vishnu, who's our enemy. So, what is this nonsense? You're teaching him this? He said, no, we're not teaching him this. So then Hiranyakasipu said, well then you're allowing Vaishnavas to enter into the school in disguise. They said, no, we are not allowing Vaishnavas to infiltrate the school. So then he asked, well then how has he developed this mentality? So they said, we don't know. He seems to have that mentality naturally. Why don't you ask him? So Hiranyakasipu asked Prahlad, and Prahlad replied that unless one is blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, one cannot develop Krishna consciousness. And he said, so Father, you don't have to worry about becoming Krishna conscious because you're too proud to bow down to anyone's lotus feet. So you don't have to worry about becoming Krishna conscious. It's not a possibility. All right, so Prahlad Maharaj wanted to reply that an attitude favorable toward Vishnu can develop only when the Lord is favorable. Sayadanuvrita. Yeah, I should add one more thing in Prahlad's reply to his father. He also said that Matirna Krishne Parato Svatova, that one's inclination towards Krishna cannot be awakened by one's own efforts, by the efforts of others, or by the combined efforts of oneself and others. So logically, one would think that those three categories are the only possibilities, and he's eliminated all three. But then he said, Mahiyashan Padarajo Bhishekam, that only when you bathe your abhishek, Padarajobhishekam, only when you bathe yourself in the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee who's free from material desires, can you become Krishna conscious. So, Prahlad Maharaj wanted to reply that an attitude favorable toward Vishnu can develop only when the Lord is favorable. Sa yad anuvrata. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the friend of everyone. Suridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam mam shantim richati. So we're servants of Krishna, so we should also reflect the mood of our master and be the friend of everyone. The Lord is never an enemy to any of the millions of living entities, but he is always a friend to everyone. This is true understanding. If one thinks that the Lord is an enemy, his intelligence is pashu buddhi, the intelligence of an animal. He falsely thinks, I am different from my enemy, and my enemy is different from me. My enemy has done this, and therefore it is my duty to kill him. Well, we might not think in terms of killing, but we might think of retaliating in our own way. This misconception is described in this verse as Beda Gatasati. The actual fact is that everyone is a servant of the Lord, as confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiver Swarupai Krishnera Nityadas. As servants of the Lord, we are one, and there can be no question of enmity or friendship. Here, friendship means special friendship on the basis of someone supporting one's sense gratification or egoistic desires. As servants of the Lord, we are one, and there can be no questions of enmity or friendship. If one actually understands that everyone is a servant of the Lord, where is the question of enemy or friend? Everyone should be friendly for the service of the Lord. I'll read that again. Everyone should be friendly for the service of the Lord. Everyone should praise another's service to the Lord and not be proud of his own service. I'll read that again. Everyone should praise another's service to the Lord and not be proud of his own service. This is the way of Vaishnava thinking, Vaikuntha thinking. There may be rivalries and apparent competition between servants in performing service. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the service of another servant is appreciated, not condemned. This is Vaikuntha competition. So, Srila Prabhupada has explained the difference between, spiritual competition and material consciousness. In spiritual competition, one acknowledges the good service of another, but wants to do better. oh, so-and-so is doing such wonderful service to please Guru and Krishna. So I also want to do even more, even better. So that's spiritual, in which one appreciates the service of the other. But material involves envy. In an envious mentality, one is not willing to appreciate the good service of others. And sometimes Srila Prabhupada would speak about his god brothers as being envious. And he told a story to illustrate the envious mentality, that two friends who had been classmates in school were talking, and one of them told the other that such and such classmate had become a high court judge. So the other friend was envious. He said, no, that person, he couldn't have become a high court judge. No way. But the other one said, no, he is. He is a high court judge. I know it for a fact. And I've seen him in the courtroom. So then the other one said, well, then he must not be getting any salary. So Srila Prabhupada told that story to illustrate the envious mentality. Like, he just couldn't accept, his former classmate being in that high position. There may be rivalries and apparent competition between servants in performing service, but in the Vaikuntha planets, the service of another servant is appreciated, not condemned. This is Vaikuntha competition. There is no question of enmity between servants. Everyone should be allowed to render service to the Lord to the best of his ability, and everyone should appreciate the service of others. Such are the activities of Vaikuntha. So Srila Prabhupada often said the temple is Vaikuntha, the temple of the spiritual world. And it is, in the sense that Krishna is the center, and all the devotees are engaged in Krishna's service. But there are some subtle elements to our service, such as our consciousness, that will or will not make us really in the mood of Vaikuntha. So, everyone should be allowed to render service to the Lord to the best of his ability, and everyone should praise the service of others. Such are the activities of Vaikuntha. Since everyone is a servant, everyone is on the same platform and is allowed to serve the Lord according to his ability. And this is also important, that on the absolute platform of devotional service, there's no higher or lower. All of the services are equal. The person who's offering the arti, that service is no higher than the service of the devotee cleaning the temple floor, or washing the pots, cleaning the toilets. Once our god brother Giriraj Swami Maharaj, visited my ashram in Carpinteria, and he gave a very nice talk. And yeah, he was saying, he offered his obeisances to the pot washers of Krishna, to the toilet cleaners of Krishna. Of course, in India, there's like a caste system, so that mentality of higher and lower can be there, but it's not really appropriate in relation to devotional service. Since everyone is a servant, everyone is on the same platform and is allowed to serve the Lord according to his ability. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridisani visto mata smitir dhyanam apohanam cha. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart, giving dictation according to the attitude of the servant. So different servants want to serve Krishna different ways, and the Lord in the heart gives them the intelligence how to do that. However, the Lord gives different dictation to the non-devotees and devotees. The non-devotees challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the Lord dictates in such a way that the non-devotees forget the Lord's service life after life and are punished by the laws of nature. So even though we're all by nature servants of Krishna, and Krishna fulfills everyone's desires from within the heart, gives them intelligence, but with the non-devotees or the demons, he gives a different kind of intelligence. When a devotee very sincerely wants to render service to the Lord dictates in a different way. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 10:10, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Everyone is actually a servant, not an enemy or friend, and everyone is working under different directions from the Lord, who directs each living entity according to his mentality. So this is the principle of unity in variety. The unity is that we're all serving Krishna, we're all serving Prabhupada, and the variety is that we have different ways of serving. Not according to our mental concoction or speculation, but just according to our individual natures or desires to serve the Lord in different ways. And Srila Prabhupada said that this principle of unity and diversity is very important, and that in their annual meetings, the GBC should discuss how to achieve the goal of unity in diversity in ISKCON. So yeah, we should have that you both appreciate the unity, that we're all servants of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, and also appreciate the diversity that different people, different devotees are serving in different ways according to their desires and capacity. And thus, we should be friendly with one another and no enmity. And as with everything in devotional service, we can achieve the qualities that we want to develop by working on them, practice. Once, I don't know if I asked His Holiness Radhanath Swami or he just related to me that someone else had asked him how he had become so humble. And he said, by practice. You know, he wasn't always like that, but he practiced acting humble. And then gradually he developed the mood of being humble, actually. So yes, practice. And then along with practice is the process of purifying the heart, especially by offenseless chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Because that will cleanse the heart, Teto Darpano Marjana. And by nature, the pure soul has all good qualities, like Krishna, so we do both. We make an effort to develop those good qualities by practice, and we also try to cleanse our hearts of the contamination of thinking I'm the body and you know, I, me, and mine, so that our original pure consciousness is revived, and in that consciousness, naturally, we feel friendly towards every living entity and appreciate every devotee's service. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments or questions? Yes?
Thank you very much, Maharaj. So appreciate it for your 7 days time in Columbus. We didn't know how 7 days passed. We want you to come back again. Thank you. So Maharaj, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentioned many places. Samudam Sarva Bhutanam, he's a well-wisher. He says, Bhaktosim is Akache. He says, since you are my friend, I'm giving this knowledge. He also said, Nameti Visheshtu na Priyaha. He's neither friend to somebody nor to enemy. And in this purport also, Prabhupada mentioned many times as we're reading it. So we are servants, but we should never be a friend or to enemy. But we also know there's a 5 rasas, Madhurya, Vasalya, and Sakya, and awe and reverence and neutrality. But guiding principle under all of them is a servitude. So now, how do we reconcile? We are servants, but servitude can be expressed in 5 ways. So now, when we express in 5 ways, how do we develop the mood? We should not be friend or we should not be enemy. But the friendship is one of the rasa, which is the primary rasas. How do you reconcile these two?
Well, Naveen Krishna Prabhu is speaking about another realm of devotional service, and that is when we are in a direct relationship with Krishna. And there are 5 primary rasas, you could say mellows or relationships. So there's Shantaras, say neutrality, Dasyaras, servant, Sakyaras, friendship, and Vatsalyaras, parental and relationship, and Madhuryaras, conjugal relationship. So, but in the spiritual world, it's the same mentality, as Srila Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, that everyone appreciates the service of the other devotees. No one deprecates the other devotee service. It's not that 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 someone in Madhurya Ras will say, "Oh, you're just in Sakya Ras. You know, what use are you? You know, we're really doing the big service. We're in Madhurya Ras. You're just in Sakya Ras." That doesn't exist. Yeah, it's just what Srila Prabhupada described.
So he's talking about the mood in the spiritual world without any distinctions, but the underlying principle is a servitude. That's what he's referring.
Oh yes, certainly. Yeah.
How do you reconcile here? Krishna also says, "Name dveshasti na priyam." Neither I'm a friend to somebody, nor I'm enemy to anybody. Same thing, Prahlad also saying the same thing. We should not be a friend or be enemy, but servant in the material world. How does that happen?
I don't know, maybe I'm not catching this import of the question. I mean, Krishna is equal to everyone, and he wants everyone to engage in his service and come back to Godhead. But if someone wants to be his enemy, Krishna will treat him like an enemy. But internally, he's the well-wisher of every living entity. And so even when he kills a demon, the demon is liberated. Krishna is actually the friend of everyone. But maybe you can repeat the question, because I think I'm not...
Probably he's referring to, can we have those 5 rasas in material world as well?
Oh, the 5? Yeah.
No, spirit, maybe let me put it this way. Sorry, I'm not able to express myself. Sorry. Yeah. So, when Krishna says, "I'm equal to everybody," and then that's obvious. I can understand that. When Prahlad Maharaj, when he's talking to his friends in this purport, and he says, "We should not be friend to anybody, enemy to anybody." So, if we take that argument really, but friend means what? So I do what is good for you, and then I'll put myself in your shoes, and then whatever way I could help you to go towards Krishna, that is a real friendship. Enmity means I don't have something which you have, so I envy you, so I want you to suffer. So now both of them we don't want, but I'm a servant to both of them. So what is a servitude mentality means? I'm a servant of Krishna, so all of you, but my service to you is to serve you to go towards Krishna. But now one part of us is removed, because that is also can be achieved as a part of servitude, as a servant. It also can be done in Madhurya, such as a transguru law. So they expressed in many ways. But when he says should not be friend to somebody, that was I was thinking I could not reconcile both of them, because servitude, friend is part of that rasa in the material world as in the servant world, because relationship, as you also said in Vaikuntha mentality, is that we are all servants. I appreciate you, I appreciate. When there is no friendly relationships, it's very difficult, because when there is no friendship, the real thing, flip side, enmity will come. The absence of enmity is the friendship. When the friendship cannot be expressed, how the servitude can flourish.
Yeah. So we're using the term friend in 2 different ways. So, like Srila Prabhupada says, everyone should be friendly for the service of the Lord. So in that sense, we're friends of everyone, and we want to help them in devotional service and go closer to Krishna. But in another context, we're talking about friends and enemies. That's someone who, helps me in my sense gratification or in my egoistic desires is my friend. And someone who doesn't help me in my sense gratification or egoistic desires as my enemy. So we shouldn't be friends on that basis, that someone is, feeding my false ego. Yeah. And in fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, if you praise me, you're my enemy, because your praise is making me puffed up, so that's against my self-interest. So.
No, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the dimension which you were explaining, now I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, the different contexts of the use of the word friend. Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj. It's a very timely verse. You explained the precept, the principle about practice and attempting to do a friendless charity. But over the course of time, while we endeavor to do all these things are going to happen that challenges doing all that. How can we as devotees increase our resilience so we are buffeted by whatever happens externally?
Well, my immediate response is prayer. Okay, we're in the temple, someone says something or does something that affects me or upsets me. But we don't want to react, because if we react by, getting angry or saying something bad to the other person, it'll be bad for both us and the other person. It'll make the relationship worse. And anger, real anger pollutes. Srila Prabhupada writes that the whole body becomes polluted when you become angry. So you just have to pray, Krishna, help me, don't let me lose control here. And, well, sometimes they say take a deep breath to do that. But yes, we do have our conditioning. We're trying to overcome our conditioning. And so we have to, practice. And if there's a lapse, then we should apologize as soon as possible. We shouldn't let it linger. So if you say something you shouldn't have said or used a tone that you shouldn't have used, then, as soon as you're aware of it and have an opportunity, you should say, I did that, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it. It's just my conditioning, but I'm working on it. Please forgive me. Yes, Rukmini?
So you quoted Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about saying that one who praises me is my enemy and one who criticizes me is my friend. Now, some people, we can also take this up and say, well, I'm going to be the friend of people by correcting them. Now that's a dangerous position to take, but then sometimes it's necessary to correct other people, but then often it's safer to, not. So maybe you could shed some light on how to give constructive feedback, but not in such a way that we're actually the reason is, it can be very subtle, that actually the reason is to pump myself up, that I'm seeing your faults.
Yeah, that is a very important point, that in devotional service, if someone is making a mistake, depending on how serious the mistake is and how frequent it is, we need to correct the person. It was just a small incident, but I guess since I mentioned my godbrother Giriraj Swami, I'll mention it, that when he arrived in Mayapur for the last time, he was very sick, he was going to leave his body. So when he got to Mayapur, he was given a real hero's welcome, which he deserved. And then he came in the temple room, and a devotee offered him obeisances in the temple room, saying, it's so auspicious that you come to Mayapur. And he said, well, it's not auspicious for you because your feet are facing the deities while you're offering obeisances. So he did correct the devotee in a nice way, I would say. There's different contexts. I know in the old Boston temple, when new people would come, we discussed like how not to overburden them with too many rules when they first come. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't use your left hand for this, you can't face that. So we sort of tried to be selective in how we instructed new people so they're not like overwhelmed by so many rules and regulations. And we also discussed that it's better if one person will take the new person under his wing or her wing, so they don't keep getting instructions from so many different people. It could also be bewildering. So, and then a lot has to do with one's personal relationship and also one's responsibility. Is it whose responsibility is it to correct a particular devotee, and then how to do it. Again, it depends, but we wouldn't want to do it publicly, so it doesn't like embarrass or humiliate the person, but do it privately. But sometimes Srila Prabhupada did it publicly. I remember one day he arrived in Juhu from somewhere out of state, and I guess driving up the driveway, he noticed some defects. So when we got upstairs to his room, and it's usually like very, very loving occasion when Srila Prabhupada would arrive, and he would, glance mercifully at all the devotees and smile and say nice things. And he, he started to criticize my mismanagement, which he noticed on the way. And within my mind, I first thought, well, how's anyone going to listen to me if Srila Prabhupada's criticizing me in front of them? But I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it was just on his mind, and he didn't want to carry it in his mind, so he just pointed out the defects. And the person who's receiving the correction should take it in good spirits. This person's my well-wisher and trying to help me improve. But like they say, choose your battles. Not to make anyone feel self-conscious or anything, but I have my personal staff, and they may make many mistakes, but I don't correct every mistake they make, because could be too much. So, like they say, choose your battles. Just focus on something that's really significant to correct.
I was also thinking about the statement.
Oh yeah, and just one other point. I mean, it sort of goes without saying, but don't do it in the mode of passion. Do it in the mode of goodness or transcendentally. Like they have this saying, you're shouting so loud I can't hear what you're saying. It's like, so we want people to be able to hear the message and not focus on how angry we are and miss the message. Yes?
So there's a statement by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when faults in others misguide you, delude you, then you introspect, you find faults in yourself, and know that nobody cannot harm you unless you harm yourself.
Yeah, beautiful, perfect.
So that's also, that can sober us up from criticizing others when we see our faults. That's one thing I was thinking. And the other thing I was thinking was that we have to have a relationship with that person if we are going to correct that person. If he doesn't accept us as a friend or a well-wisher, and if we correct, then they may not, they take it wrong way or something.
Yeah. But they should see everyone, who is a well-wisher as a well-wisher. That's from their side. But yeah, we should, like there's one incident in the 5th canto when Lord Brahma, it was quite a complicated situation with Priyavrata and Narada Muni, and so the first thing Brahma did was establish that he was the well-wisher of all who were concerned, so that they wouldn't take his instructions otherwise. So that's what you were saying. So that's true. That's true. Any other questions or comments?
Maharaj, I was just thinking, Krishna says that if you do devotional service in one life, then in the next life there's a guarantee that you'll take birth in a Brahmin family or in a transcendentalist family. So when we read the past of Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, being such a pure devotee, he took birth in a family of demons. So, one way we can see that this is just Krishna's Leela he's performing. But then, how do you understand that Prahlad Maharaj, being such a pure devotee, had to take birth in a demonic family and had to go through that suffering. And eventually his father being killed so that he moves on with his devotion.
Yes, sometimes devotees take birth in, although what you said is true for, in general, Suchinam Shimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Jayate. One takes birth in a wealthy family or family of yogis or devotees. But sometimes the devotees take birth in different families by the arrangement of the Lord to illustrate different principles. So one example is Haridas Thakur. He took birth, as you know, in a Muslim family, which is considered a low birth. And in that birth he was, you could say, punished or persecuted or tortured in many ways. but that showed his glorious character. And he also prayed for that, because as Lord Brahma, he sometimes forgot Krishna's position, like when he stole the cowherd boys and calves, so he prayed that he should have such an experience that he would never forget Krishna's position again. So his taking birth as Haridas Thakur, Brahma Haridas, was also in response to his prayer. And as far as Prahlad Maharaj, I mean, yeah, he's in a different category. There's an interesting purport in which Srila Prabhupada says that he's a combination of a Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha. So as a Nitya Siddha, he didn't even really have to take birth, but he did so to show, you know, the glorious character of a devotee, especially in relation to remembering. He always remembered Krishna, because they're the 9 processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. The different devotees are given as examples of each of those 9. And Prahlad is the example of Smaranam. He always remembered Krishna no matter what was happening. So, but yeah, I would say overall it's a divine arrangement that he took that birth. But yeah, it would be atypical for an ordinary devotee to take birth in a family of demons. It's true. Yes?
Maharaj, we have a question from our online viewer. That how should you behave when senior devotees or elderly people complain about other seniors with you?
Well, the premise of the question is that how should you react when a senior devotee criticizes another senior devotee? So that should not be done, you know, in the presence of junior devotees. It's like, you know, a mother and father might have some difference, but they don't express it in front of the children. You know, that would be disastrous. But, you know, in private between themselves, they try to work it out. So, a senior devotee criticizing another senior devotee in the presence of a junior devotee is a situation that we want to avoid. But as far as how the junior devotee should respond, according to Vaishnava etiquette, the junior devotee should not take sides. Otherwise, he or she may be involved in committing an offense against one of the senior devotees. So the instruction for the junior devotee is not to take sides, and it would probably be good to get out of that situation of having to hear that criticism of one senior devotee by another senior devotee. Yes, Rukmini?
What you just said, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur considered so important that he repeated it 4 times in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, almost the identical verse, that when there is a dispute between Vaishnavas, if one takes the side of one Vaishnava and does ninda to the other, which is
blasphemy,
blasphemy,
criticize.
criticism, then one's own devotion is ruined.
Yes.
When one goes to ruin.
Yes. Rukmini has confirmed what I said emphatically by quoting Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. He says that if there's, a disagreement between Vaishnavas, one should not take sides, one should not engage in ninda, which is like blasphemy or criticism of one of the Vaishnavas. Otherwise that will be disastrous. What does he say exactly?
Koi, one's devotion, shejai koi, that one goes to ruin.
Well, yeah, one's devotion goes to ruin. Yeah. Okay, so that's a very conclusive statement. Very good advice. So now what is next on the program?
When are you going to come back, Maharaj?
As soon as practical. I mean, I have become very attached to Columbus. All of you nice devotees. So, I mean, the last time was 10 years ago. It's definitely not going to be 10 years. I don't know if I can say every year. It would be nice, but definitely every couple of years I hope to come back. And I saw the new temple land yesterday. Do you call it Hare Krishna land?
Yes, please. We just not have put any signs because we didn't want it to offend anybody.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But yeah, that's a very exciting project. I mean, it seems like a good location, lots of land, and that geographical area seems to be developing. There'd be like a lot of good people who can come to the temple from nearby. And yeah, a lot of the neighbors are supportive and encouraging, so yeah, I also want to see that progress. All right, so next is prasadam. Okay, should we do the prasad prayer here? Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Svabhuminavadarajan Vishwasmanavajayate Sarira Vidyata Sarendriya Karika Ive Pele Vishaya Sadare Dharmate Jivayati Lobo Maisu Dharmati Take Jeta Katina Samsare Krishna Bharadoya Moy Kore Bharati Vajay Sa Prasadamati Loba Sayanamrita Pav Radha Krishna Gunagav Venerato Chaitanya Nitai Janimai Janitai Janimai Janitai Janimai Janitai Jai Jai Tagore Premanandi. Hare
Hare
Krishna.